Tips with Toni. Tips with Toni. All about nutrition from your favorite dietitian. Everything you need to digest in your mind. Tips with Toni. Tips with Toni. Making you healthier one bite at a time. With Toni. Woo.
Hello, and welcome to the Tips with Toni podcast. I'm Toni Marinucci, your registered dietitian, helping you get healthy one bite at a time. All right, guys. So if you've been following me on Instagram, I released a couple episodes of my IGTV about how I have not been feeling well at all. I was experiencing extreme fatigue, bloating, muscle aches. I kept feeling like I was getting sick. I just did not feel well. And for a while, I kind of ignored it. I kind of thought like, oh, I could figure this out on my own. But eventually I was like, no, something is definitely wrong and I need help. So I reached out to my good friend, Michelle Shapiro. She's a registered dietitian, and she's going to talk to you all about what she does and who she is and how of an amazing human she is and how much I love and respect her. And you're going to learn why. But basically, she has been helping treat my symptoms. You'll be surprised. In this episode, we recorded this almost a month ago, and in that time, I've been going for lots of testing, lots of blood work, lots of breath tests to see if I have a small bacterial overgrowth. Anyways, a whole bunch of things. Still going through testing, but one test actually did come back positive. So I can kind of, you'll hear in my voice, I was very stressed. And during this episode, I remember feeling extremely tired, and things were a struggle. I'm so happy to say that I'm definitely on the other end right now. I'm not 100% better, but I'm getting better. I found out that I actually have mono or Epstein-Barr, which explains the fatigue. It explains the muscle aches. However, something like a virus like mono, there's nothing I can do about it. I kind of have to just wait for it to run its course. It might take already been, I think, 6 months. It might take longer, who knows? But something like that actually can cause what you probably have heard before, which is called adrenal fatigue, but the proper term is HPA axis dysregulation. And Michelle's going to explain all about that. So what we thought I had, I do have. It's just now we know the root cause, and it's actually very, very refreshing because now I no longer have to worry. I thought maybe it was autoimmune disease. I wasn't sure if potentially cancer. I've never been so tired in my life. So there was just a lot of fear there. And I definitely talk about it more. I will be updating you as we go, but you're going to learn a lot in this session, and I'm totally going to have Michelle back in the future. So without further ado, here is the interview with Michelle Shapiro, registered dietitian. Hey, Michelle, how are you?
Good. Hi, Toni. I'm well. How are you?
Good. I'm so excited to have you here.
I'm so excited to be here with you, hanging out and talking.
Yeah, I already prefaced this in the intro, but Michelle is my really good friend. I didn't say this in the intro, that we met when we were still in college, right? We were totally in college.
I think I was like a freshman in college, actually.
Yeah, like we loved nutrition from the jump.
Always. It's so crazy. You know what's... I actually have a really funny thing to add to your story, which you're going to tell first, that I've never told you before, but I want to hear what you're going to say. Oh my God.
Okay. So basically we were in college, and our summer job, we were nutrition educators, and we would go to these summer camps and just give general nutrition education to these kids. And it was a great way to gain experience in the field. And then here we are at literally 10 years later. Crazy.
Literally 10 years later. Yeah. Isn't that insane?
That's insane.
To the nose, probably 10 years later.
I am old.
That's great. Yeah, we're both old. Elderly people. Yeah, it's amazing.
And yeah, stayed in touch, and happy to now have Michelle helping me with my nutrition, because if you've been following me on Instagram and Facebook, you know that I've been experiencing some weird symptoms that I'm not quite sure what's happening. And Michelle's been really helpful in treating me, and we're going to get all into that. But before we do that, I want you to introduce yourself, and I also want to hear your story.
Yeah. So I'm Michelle. I'm an integrative dietitian in New York. So that means that I use a combination of root cause medicine and then just classically trained in like kind of Western medicine as we know it. So I will tell my story as a person in congruence with our story, which is really interesting. So when I was in high school, I lost 100 pounds, and going into college, I had this like definitely disordered eating patterns, and definitely a lot of dietitians who are in school either correct them or they get worse because you're talking about food all the time. I say a lot of dietitians I know actually went into the programs so that they can learn the secrets to weight loss to enhance their disordered eating. So I did not have that experience. I learned a lot of awesome tools to help me move past that. And of course, using like specific programs and stuff. So I remember we were eating at Cornell Cooperative Extension one time, and I think you like looked at me weird or said something, and you were like, you don't eat enough food or something. Like you said something that like, I swear it like shocked my brain, where I was like, oh, I didn't realize that I didn't. And I would watch what you guys would eat, which would be like a completely normal amount of food. And I'm just like, why do I eat so much less than these other people? I'm like much taller than them. Like, I'm like, literally you said something and it was so non-offensive and so helpful to me. And I just remember being like, I learned that I had disordered eating because I didn't even realize it because of a thing you said to me, which is so crazy. Cause I was like, oh, maybe I don't eat a lot of food. Like I kind of like was so stuck in it. And like it took, which is actually easy to parlay into our conversation today too, because you don't know you're in something when you're in it. No. But it was like this comment, this like totally harmless, like, is that all you're eating kind of thing? And I was like, oh, I'm not eating that much. And it's really interesting because that's actually a story that I associate with you in a very positive way, which is interesting.
Well, that's good. Cause I feel like that sounds like I was like, I'm like, now I'm like sad. It's like, did she think I was judging her? But I totally.
No, it wasn't like, it was like, beyond, not like that. You were like, do you need to get more food kind of thing? Like it was like a very like, it was not judging at all. It was not commenting on what I was eating. It was like a total helpful, and it like shattered my brain for a second. I was like, oh, other people notice I don't eat a lot. Maybe I don't eat a lot. If it's in comparison to everyone else at the table who's like not that much bigger or smaller than me, and they're eating like much more food than I am, like something clicked, which is interesting. Yeah.
That is very interesting. And I think that, I mean, it's part of your story. So you mentioned that you had lost 100 pounds in high school, but it sounds like you didn't do it in a healthy way. So can you elaborate on that?
Yeah. So I am a very type A person. So when I decide to do something, I'm like, I'm going to do it 100% or not. So when I first lost weight, I like developed what I call, and will call in my book called The Battle Plan, my first battle plan. So my battle plan was, I'm going to eat as little as I possibly can and exercise as much as I possibly can. There was no parameters or limits for this. And back in the day, 10 years ago, we didn't really believe there were parameters or limits for this because we didn't understand the consequences. So we always heard, move more, eat less. We've heard this all a million times. Calories in, calories out. I was like, if we're going to do calories in, calories out, I'll show you how good I can do calories in, calories out, Michelle. I will eat 500 calories a day and I will work out for 6 hours a day. As I'm telling this story, if you find this triggering, by the way, good, because it is a triggering story, and walk away if you're not on the point in your journey where you can tolerate hearing about it. I am so not encouraging this behavior. I would go so far as to say that all of these behaviors destroyed my health. And basically I dropped the weight and I picked up chronic illness along the way. So after I lost all this weight, I was left with these mental feelings that I really couldn't cope with. And I was left with all these physical symptoms too. I was in constant anxiety. I had stomach issues. I had just a slew of these symptoms. I had been eating a vegan diet for, at that point, only 4 years or something. And then I continued to eat a vegan diet for like 6 more years or so. So I was severely nutrient deficient, which led to just like, I would say I was uncomfortable or in pain or anxiety basically every day of my life. At which point I developed my next battle plan, which was I made a list of every single thing that heals people and specifically related to anxiety and stress. I was like, all right, I'm going to do therapy. I'm going to do this supplement. I'm going to correct my nutrient deficiencies. I'm going to do, and I made like a 10-point battle plan. And when I execute something, I execute it perfectly because I believe in systems. So I went point by point perfectly. That got me about 70% better, but I was still not aware of what else was going on with me. And treating myself wasn't the best thing. And it didn't work fully because I was only 70% there. And I was managing, I would say, and I was kind of surviving at that point. And I wanted to live. I wanted to like have a life that I had never even dreamed of. So then I went to my naturopathic physician, Dr. Kochko, who, if you go on my page, is all over my page. And we developed my final battle plan, which is the battle plan that I live by and is always edited and revised, of course, too. But which further corrected my nutrient deficiencies and dealt with my underlying symptoms, my underlying issue that was causing my symptoms, which was HPA axis dysregulation. I had subclinical hypothyroidism and a couple other things concurrently going on. But my main thing was like HPA axis dysregulation, which a lot of people call adrenal fatigue. And I received healing there and then went on to kind of make that my passion. So I help people who are suffering from chronic illness, and I help people who are suffering from weight loss and then weight regain and dealing with those emotions associated with it. And here we are today.
And when I tell you, like, Michelle is the most caring, understanding, supportive human.
Besides you.
No, like, I can't even express like the gratitude that I have for I trust you for your nutrition knowledge, but the genuine, because I think you went through it, you totally understand what I'm going through. And so like you really had set like anything that I was feeling, we're going to get into it, but like anything I was feeling, you knew exactly the right thing to say. It was literally what I needed to hear. And I truly believe it's because you went through the process yourself. So you really know how that is. And so, yeah, so this is exciting. I'm excited for your book. Like, I cannot wait. Do you have an idea, like, when you're going to be done with it? Or you kind of just, like, wanting, like, where are we at in that status?
I'm a little more than half of it is written. Thank you for your words, by the way. And I feel the same exact way about you. I really do. I'm halfway through it. I am in the editing phase of those pages and working through the end of it. I got through my favorite parts of it, and now I'm working through like parts of it that are just necessary, like information. But I got through like the really funny, fun, awesome stuff that I think is going to give a lot of light bulbs to people. And then I don't know who I'm publishing it with yet. And that's an obstacle too, but that I'm like learning that process, which is not like intuitive to dietitians. We learn how to be dietitians. I
don't know if you're connected with John Romanello, but you should.
Cool. Connect us.
I will connect you guys for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm in that process. I am working with a book coach who is a very close friend of mine too, Sarah Fader. She's a writer. She's incredible. And she's a book coaching program. And I was planning, this is like in full transparency, was planning to publish it with her in her publishing house. She has an incredible publishing house as part of her program. And then I realized I kind of want to, like I said, when I execute things, I like to go huge. So she's a small publishing house, an incredible one. I'm looking to work with a large publishing house. So it's kind of, I'm in between, and I've written a lot of it. And I'm extremely excited about it. So that's where I'm at with it.
Well, I'm excited too. I'm going to shout it like at the end of every podcast, and get this book.
I just want you to read it and like feel in your heart, like, oh crap, she gets me. Like that same feeling we actually talk. And that's the point of it, is for people who can't afford my services or who are not ready for that level of care, to just have a moment where they read it and go, oh, finally I'm heard, and to feel seen. That's really the goal of it.
Totally. Awesome. All right. So let's get into it. So basically, I'm going to get a little mini session from Michelle, and everyone's going to listen. It's like the selfish.
I love that.
No, but people will learn. So I reached out to you because for a while, I've been saying like weeks, but I really look back at it and I really think it was like months, because I remember feeling fatigue like when I was still working for my corporate job, and, and like, but at that point I just thought, okay, the fatigue is I'm working a full-time job, building my business on the side. Like, of course I'm going to be tired. Right. So I remember, but it was a different type of fatigue back then. I remember feeling like I was drinking, I love coffee, that's a given, but I was drinking a ton of coffee, and to the point where not even like I would take a little pre-workout before my workouts, and like even those wouldn't work. I would be working out and I'd hit a wall, and it was just like, so then I was like, oh, maybe I'm just not motivated. Like maybe I'm just in that journey but meanwhile, I thought I would, honestly, I look back at it, like I was like really excited and I wanted it to be fitter. Like I was excited, but like anytime I'd like start my workout, just like I'd hit a wall. And then like,
what was the wall like?
Well, so I was getting like a little bit dizzy, and, I just would be like, I really want to do this, but like, I like can't. Like it was a different sort of like I could push myself, but I don't think my body can push. Like it was different than like when I mentally am like, I'm tired or like, that's it. No, Toni, go. Like you can do this. Like a mental push like that. It was literally like my body was like, stop it.
Your body was rejecting you doing this to yourself. It was not allowing you to do it.
It was literally not allowing it. And that was back in like, you know, right around, I want to say like probably around like December, January. That's when I was still working for my other job. Right. So then, okay. I got the flu. So that I was like, obviously knocked me out. I was off my routine. Went to Italy, left my full-time job, was really excited. I think I was just like, oh, whatever. Anyways, fast forward, really the symptoms really started in March. I went to Florida. And Michelle and I were talking about this before, and full disclosure, full transparency, although I help people with emotional eating, I struggled with it. So it's why I am, you know, I talk about it. I haven't done it since for years. I literally haven't done it in years. And I was sitting at the dinner table with my godparents in Florida, and they were fighting, and they're always fighting. And at that point I was staying with them. So I was there for like a couple of days, and I just like literally had it, like, you guys can't see me, but my hands like up to here. Like I was just like, I am so uncomfortable. This is so annoying. There was a roll on the table, and I'm gluten sensitive, and I haven't had gluten in over 5 years. I made it all the way through Italy with no gluten. And I got there and I had the freaking loaf of bread that for someone who hasn't had gluten in 6 years, like I was very bloated the rest of the trip. But then when I got home, it had diarrhea for a week. Sorry if it's too much, but like I was just not okay. The bloating was excessive. I just did not feel good for like a solid week and a half after that. So I'm like, okay, that was that. But then I was still bloated, but there was no more diarrhea. Which then led to, then I was like, okay, I'm okay. I would try to work out, still feel tired, fatigue. I was like, maybe I'm just not motivated. And this kind of went on for a while, and I kept just like blaming like, oh, maybe I'm getting sick, or maybe it would be the time of the month for me. You know, like just really, really tired and like a consistent bloat. Like those were like my main symptoms. And I finally was just like, this can't be normal. like if I remember I had you on the live, and I was like, so if someone's experiencing, because you help people a lot with like gut stuff and, you know, stomach issues and stuff. And so I remember asking you, and I was like, so when should someone reach out for help? Like if they're having bloating, like how much bloating is too much bloating? And you were like, none.
You should not be bloated.
You should not be bloated.
You should not be bloated. Maybe like even bloating before your period is not normal. So what you're talking about, and is so important to like take home to people, is that the second you realize that something might not be normal, it's probably not normal. Yeah. To be honest with you. And it's okay that it's not normal. Yeah. It just means that you're not at the optimal function. The acceptance of it not being normal is also awesome, but it's okay to acknowledge it and accept it, and it's still not be normal. Yeah. So a lot of what I work with, and a lot of what you're talking about, is that people who are like us, who are like gung-ho, like let's go, we dismiss our own symptoms, and it makes it so much worse. So like, and the hardest part is now you've been bloated for such a long time, and bloated before this too. This has just been more persistent for you. Yeah. You can't even, at this point, it's illogical for you to imagine a life without bloating. That's the hardest part. You're like, why would I even get help for this? This is my life. I don't even know why. So the hardest part of any healing with chronic illness is to picture a life that is like almost like believing in magic. Because it's just like, it's insane to think like, if you would have told my 250-pound self, who was my weight my entire life, like, you're going to help people with their health one day, and you're going to be at a healthy weight the rest of your life, I would have been like, okay, you know, I would have been like, all right, like that, it's like a ridiculous thought. But I had to, the moment that I lost weight, when I was like, oh, this doesn't have to be my thing anymore. So that's what we're doing with you, is like, bloating's not your thing. That's not you. Fatigue is not your thing. That's not a characteristic of Toni at all.
No, not at all. That honestly, so it's funny that you say that, because for me, bloating has always been in and out. And like, as a dietitian, I'm like, oh, I know I can heal this. Like, I know what foods are causing it, or like, I know what probiotics to take. And like, I would just like, you know, tell myself it'll be fine. But the fatigue thing is really what made me reach out for the help, because I was like, I was getting to a point, Michelle, where like, I'm finally in a position where I'm doing exactly what I know I'm meant to be doing. Like I've never been happier in my life. I feel like I'm completely in line with the energy. Yeah. And I was feeling like, oh God, I need to take a nap, like in between calls. It was like, oh, I don't want to get on this live, or like, oh, I don't like what? That is not me at all. I couldn't wait to get home from my full-time job to when I was working for another company to get home to do these things. I couldn't get out fast enough. I know that I love this stuff. So that's when I was like, okay, this is obviously way too much. And I will say, and I know we spoke about this before, you said like, I think I've grown a lot, like internally. I go to therapy weekly, and my old self used to just like saturate my schedule with things to do. So I didn't have to feel, so I didn't have to pay attention. So I didn't have to I would be anxious, but no, let me do something else. And so as busy as I was, and people were always like, I don't know how you do it. I'm like, I don't really know how not to do it. Like, I don't know how not to have 5,000 things going on at once, because then that forces me to have to like feel feelings and like slow down and relax. Right. And so finally I'm at a position in my life where I've learned to take away and to not overcommit and to really just do what I'm supposed to be doing. And now all of a sudden it's like the years of me ignoring this have been like,
because you're saying all of a sudden, but you really know it's not by chance.
No.
You pushed everything down for so long, and now those things are gone and everything else is rising to the surface.
Yeah.
So the universe is putting you, and you believe in God. So God is putting you specifically in this position because you now can heal. Yeah. This is your opportunity to heal. And these are wounds that, like I told you, like a brutal breakup, by the way, that can last for years. If it's you to heal from those things take a long time, and it takes conscious, actionable, intentional effort. It's not just like time doesn't, heal all wounds, and effort does, and action does. And that's basically where you're at, is like all of these feelings, they were there. You were pounding your system and suppressing stuff. And now we've taken away the distractions. And what's left is a very strong, very tired person. You're tired. You know what I mean? Like, you're tired.
She's like, how are you doing today? I was like, I was really great up until 3 p.m. It's 6 p.m. right now.
Exactly.
I'm not doing great. Okay.
It's the middle of the night for your break.
Yes, exactly. I'm exhausted. Like,
you're an extremely strong, enlightened person. And by the way, if someone is truly healing, it's going to feel probably rough at times. So that's what actual healing happens. You got to break down to rebuild. That's just the way that our cells are built. That's the way that our muscles are built. We break down and rebuild. That's how our bodies are meant to be. Our spirit is meant to be that way too. And at some point, which is an insane thing to say, and I think you already are, you'll be grateful obviously for this opportunity, because if you didn't have this time, you wouldn't be able to heal. And now you have this time and you have this pain and you're using it functionally to heal. So, and that's what we're going to work towards, but it's unpleasant. Healing is not, everyone thinks it's like, I'm going to just lose weight and feel. I'm like, no, it's like, it's brutal. And I always say to my clients, I'm like, I love when they cry hysterically in my office. I'm like, I love those tears, because I know that something's happening, and we're working towards something. It has to be effortful, intentional, and probably painful to heal. So congratulations for making it to this point. It's a good thing.
Yeah. Well, to be honest, if I never acknowledged it and I never reached out for help, I'd still be suffering.
100%. You already have that mental lift, I can tell, where you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, because I do. And even since we've been working together, it's been not even a week. It's been like a week and a half, maybe. I've been supplementing, like with the supplements, and also like you giving me permission. So you know I love fitness, guys. I love training. It really is my saving grace. It is how I manage my stress. But I also knew it wasn't helping me. And it was like, I felt like I was wasting more energy fighting with myself to try to get a workout in. But when I would do it, would knock me out for a week, where it was like, you like told me what I know I needed to hear. You were like, you have to stop exercising. Like, I have to just walk in yoga. And like, I knew that already, but like you giving me permission allowed me to just like do it. And that alone, you also are like, if you don't like, just take care of Toni. So like if I had someone ask me to do something, but I felt like I really needed a nap, like I was napping. 100%. And like, it's been a week of me only walking, napping in the middle of the day, not every day, but most days, which is so not me either. Going to bed like at a reasonable hour and just like healing. And I know I'm not done. I feel like it's probably just the beginning, but I feel better than what I was. And I don't think I would have only been worse if I didn't actually reach out and speak up and say like, okay, I need help. Which also too, like, I think like as a nutrition professional, like I think it's hard to be vulnerable like that. And I think that's probably why too, I didn't reach out, is because like, I'm supposed to know it. I'm supposed to know what to do. And like, I couldn't figure it out, but I also didn't think it was as serious as I think it actually may be. But like, either way though, I think it's really important to just like, if anybody's listening, like, it's okay to reach out for help. Like, even if
you have to, it's not okay. You have to. If a doctor doesn't trust another doctor, that's not a doctor I want to go to. If your lawyer doesn't have a lawyer, it's not a lawyer I want to go to.
Well, true. Good point.
I have my own dietitian too.
Yeah.
And I have and she's also my business coach. But, and I told her I had some resistance. Yeah.
I was reaching out to you.
Exactly. I had that ego resistance in the beginning, but when you actually want to feel better, your ego is not going to be your friend and an asset. So that's, asking for help. If you're any kind of professional, obviously I went to a naturopath for years who I send my own clients to if I need testing or something, which we'll talk about too as part of your journey. But I'm not too afraid to ask for help, not only for myself, but for other people who I'm treating. If you don't have the right answers and someone else does, it's you're gypping yourself and you're gypping other people. And yes, it always takes someone else to tell you something. You can't treat yourself. It's not possible to treat yourself. We have too much emotion tied into it. You need someone else with a logical resolution for you. It's impossible to treat yourself.
Absolutely.
And it's not the best way. And you like doing things the right way.
Yeah. If you want efficiency. Yeah. Oh my gosh, for sure. Okay. So you saw so to put everyone up to speed, I did go to the doctor. I did get blood work done. And everything came back that everything's normal. So let's talk about that. Yeah. So tell me why you expected it and what you got from reviewing my labs. And we'll go back.
So I really wanted to see if you had some sort of autoimmune condition that could be picked up from labs. So we did the ANA test. I wanted to just see if your CRP was elevated, to see if there was any inflammation. Your labs look beautiful, to be expected. Weird part with chronic illnesses that when you go to the doctor and they tell you nothing's wrong with you, it's very disheartening, which is a weird feeling. Like, I remember going to like 20 different doctors and them being like, you're good, you're the healthiest you've ever been, take some Lexapro. And I'm like, I'm not crazy. I literally am like dying and feel horrible. Like, I'm actually like dead. And there is a stage in HPA axis dysregulation where it mimics the symptoms almost exactly of like your third trimester in pregnancy. So I was like, my symptoms were so severe. I was like probably stage 3 and almost stage 4 in HPA axis dysregulation, adrenal fatigue. And my symptoms were so horrific at that point, like throwing up every morning and stuff like that, and doctors are just like, you have anxiety. And I'm like, yeah, but I didn't just make up the anxiety and I'm not causing this on myself. So I know the feeling of, and anyone who suffers from chronic illness will be like snaps, because they know the feeling when you go to the doctor and you get nothing. It's like, I almost wanted some horrible illness, honest to God, because at least it would be an answer and a way out. So I suspected that you had HPA axis dysregulation, which can't be seen really on any test that MD is going to give, unless they're a functional medicine doctor. But otherwise, they might test for your cortisol in your blood, which is not really, your cortisol doesn't fully live in your blood, and it's not so active in your blood where you can see it. And you would also need to see a pattern, like a 24-hour cortisol, to see where you're spiking or not. So having elevated cortisol doesn't mean you have HPA axis dysregulation. The pattern of cortisol does. So I was like feeling that some of the symptoms you described were reminiscent of. So what Toni and I are doing is we're taking some educated guesses because we don't have all the testing yet. And I'm treating the symptoms and seeing if it works. If something pops, if it doesn't, we change course and we get testing as we can and as we progress. So a lot of times, if my guess is correct that Toni, and she's certainly suffering from symptoms of HPA axis dysregulation, even if she's suffering from a different autoimmune condition, which we are going to rigorously test for and go to the ends of the earth to find out, she'll still have some sort of HPA axis dysregulation, which just means that her body is firing off extra cortisol and it's impacting her stress system. So either way, it's going to help for us to do symptom treatment, because if that feels better, the underlying condition is also going to be helped too, because we're taking some stress off of the stress on your system. So that's really my goal. You definitely have some gut dysbiosis that we've discussed. So regardless, again, of the root cause, for right now, what we can do until we get all those tests is just do some things that will help symptom management, which is not the ultimate goal, but I have a feeling that you might just be like totally good. Because I'm really not treating symptoms. I'm treating with the assumption that you have HPA axis dysregulation, which I have a really strong feeling about. And just from your symptoms, because we look at, when we are talking to people, we look at the symptoms of the person, not the lab values. We treat the person, not the labs. We always say that, right? So I wasn't surprised you came back with normal labs. If it is HPA axis dysregulation, you will have normal labs. So it only pushes my inclination further. We ruled out some heavy hitters, which is awesome by doing that. And then we're going to continue to treat. If you're not feeling markedly better, then we'll do further testing. And that's
I honestly think, so here's what I'm thinking, because I think I'm pretty positive I'm going to do the testing. I thought about it, and
I think you should too.
I really think that I should. My concern, to be honest, is very similar to when I got tested, when I got like not really a great test. Same thing happened for celiacs. And I had already been following gluten-free. Like I hadn't been eating gluten. So whether I got a proper test or not, I was treating it. And so therefore maybe it wouldn't show up. So like, since we've been treating my symptoms and I am feeling a little bit better.
And it's a very short time for HPA dysregulation. It could be like 6 months to notice a difference. So for you, that's good.
Okay. So that's good. But I guess my thing is like, if I go for all these tests, but I've been treating it, maybe then like, would anything show up?
Oh yeah.
Oh, it would.
So you're not. It doesn't alter that much. So yes. So if you're getting tested for celiac disease, you're like, unless you're getting tested for the allergy or celiac disease, only a small portion of the population is going to test positive for that, because there's also different things you can react to in wheat that aren't the specific things that are being tested for in the celiac test. So you can react to different proteins besides gluten too in wheat, and you can react to different like isotopes to, I don't know if it's the phrase, and it's so bad that I can't think of the phrase. This is my like end of the day brain fog. But you can react to different portions of the proteins basically based on like what you're reacting to is going to show differently in the test. So most people who are gluten sensitive will not show up in a celiac test. I also feel if you have any inflammation, gluten's pro-inflammatory in everyone. The amount that you can tolerate the inflammation is dependent on the state of your body. But if you are suspecting that your gut is inflamed, or you're suspecting that you have leaky gut, or you're suspecting that you feel overall hyperimmune reactions, I would recommend eliminating gluten anyway. So, and that's a blanket sense, statement that I hope people don't take to heart too much, and you still want to work with a healthcare professional. But you're not going to be disappointed from these tests. You will see something, because if you've been stressed even about this, it's going to show in a cortisol.
Well, that's
test.
what I'm like. Well, that's the thing. Like, I really am like, I feel like since I started bringing it to light, it has been stressing me out a little bit more. Well, one, because like I was like, the symptoms got worse actually when I started talking about it, which we spoke about. And then like, I'm getting like these extra things that aren't associated with, I'm just going to call it adrenal fatigue. Go
ahead.
But, so let's backtrack a little bit. For anybody listening, a couple of questions. So one, like, what are the symptoms of quote unquote adrenal fatigue? That's how people, I think, like,
in their heads, they're going to hear adrenal fatigue, and it's a thing. So, and I'll explain why we don't call it that anymore too.
So let's explain what it is, what the symptoms are, and why people don't call it adrenal fatigue. But that is what people
will colloquially know it as.
Yeah. Sure. So, and then, I definitely want to talk about like gluten-free, dairy-free, soy-free, that whole thing after. But
definitely. So your adrenal fatigue, as we once understood it, was that your adrenal system, which is releasing some adrenal hormones like stress hormones and different pituitary hormones. Your adrenal glands are small glands in this system, right? This HPA axis, hypothalamus, pituitary, adrenal axis. They all feed into each other. So our stress system is a weird system because cortisol has a negative feedback loop. So this is the weird part. When you are stressed, your ability to tolerate stress is impacted. So stress impacts the system and the system goes down. It is very silly. It's a survival mechanism, definitely too. So in the presence of stress, your ability to tolerate stress is worse. Mm-hmm. And over time, it's very similar. So we used to think similar to like insulin, where it was like you pumped out too much and your body kind of got over it and then just like stopped pumping insulin out. That's not true. We now know it's more about insulin resistance. I would say, to me, adrenal fatigue is more of like a cortisol resistance than it is you just bottom out. So it's very rare that you just bottom out. Most people who have HPA axis dysregulation have too much cortisol. So they'll have symptoms of elevated cortisol, which is this feeling mostly that people would associate with being wired and tired at the same time, which is like you're like zingy, but you're also like ready to pass out in any second. And what happens is your cortisol will shoot off at different times. So as an example too, I recently got my labs checked again. So I've done a couple 24-hour cortisol tests. I got a Dutch hormone test, which is like probably the best cortisol and adrenal fatigue test. So I was taking supplements that would blunt the cortisol response at night, because I was like, I'm waking up kind of too early, which is another one of the top symptoms of adrenal fatigue is when you're waking up early in the morning, because it's your body's stress system saying, there's an emergency, wake up, hurry, get up. And that's your body waking you up to make sure that you're up. So a lot of times people will experience waking up between 3 and 5 a.m. And that's how you know your cortisol is shooting off early. So there's certain supplements you can take, like phosphorylated serine, that will blunt the cortisol response and prevent your body from producing it too early. So I started taking Saraphos at night, and I've taken it a couple different times, and I was waking up more. So what was happening was I actually was releasing a surge of cortisol at 8 a.m. I thought I was releasing it earlier. So I was just waking up, not feeling rested. And then at 8 a.m. every day, I was getting incredibly dizzy. So we didn't know exactly what was going on. When I got the testing, I started taking the Saraphos when I first woke up, the phosphorylated serine, and that stopped the response from ever happening in the morning. So I didn't know when I was actually shooting up in cortisol. Mine was going like this. Other people's go like, it's always low. Other people's are like this. And then what happens in the later stages of adrenal fatigue, very unfortunately, and when the symptoms are really rough, is you actually flip the axis. So what will happen is you will be extremely awake all night and ferociously tired during the day. Okay. So that's when your circadian rhythm kind of like does a complete 360, that's when the symptoms are roughest. And then at the last stage of adrenal fatigue, which does happen, is true adrenal fatigue. You bottom out and you just do not produce those hormones anymore. Your body becomes completely impaired in producing them. People have to go on hormone therapy and things like that. God. Yeah. So
obviously you want to treat it before you get to that stage.
Well, duh. Yeah. For sure. Oh no, like definitely. You have to treat it before you get to the stage. So I will tell you, when I first went to see my naturopath, we would have pinned me at somewhere in like stage 2 or 3. I had healed with him to the point where I think my cortisol system was like completely, rejuvenated. And then I went back a year later and I was like, I had a horrible breakup. And he looked at me and said, like, if this would have happened when you were in stage 3 last time, you would have been like hospitalized. Like he's like, you don't know what would have happened. Thank goodness we healed you up for like to be able to tolerate this trauma, because the trauma would have been so impactful on that broken system already that it would have taken me over the edge, basically. So yes, you always want to treat it as early as possible. And a lot of what treating it means is just lifestyle modification too. Like the really hard stuff, like slowing down and tolerating and healing and being kind with yourself. That's what really heals it. And, another part of my healing journey, which I'm going to impart upon you, is my naturopath, Dr. Kochko, always says to me, like, Michelle, you can take all the supplements you want. You can eat as many, you can eat as much bone broth and drink as much bone broth as you want. If you don't stop working 90 hours a week, I promise you won't heal. If you don't stop, if you don't start creating boundaries with people, like my business coach says too, and pushing people off, you will never heal. So for you, if you don't take a deep breath, chill with the exercising, and stop torturing yourself and letting other people tell you how to heal and not listen to you and degrade your healing process, you won't heal. And that's what it is. So we all have these things. Even comments are translated into our body as physical stressors. So if your family member is telling you, you're making this up in your head. This happened to me a lot, right?
Yeah, this is happening to me right now, guys. And Michelle already knows. She's been helping me with this.
I don't want to reveal your story unless you want to say.
No, it's totally fine. But yeah, I would say the Facebook community, Instagram community, I'm very vocal. I have a business page for a reason. Like it helps me connect with others. But my family follows me on those pages. And so to them, it's like, oh my God, what's happening? What's wrong? Are you like, so I have one side of the family that's like, oh, that's so sad. You did this to yourself. Like, oh my God. And they have the other side of the family that's like, okay, what's wrong? I'll go to the doctor. Like, are you sure you want to run to doctors? Like, you're fine. You can heal yourself. You're waiting for your quote unquote, and like would use air quotes, like diagnosis. Like, did you get a diagnosis yet? Like, two extreme sides, but neither of them empathetic. Not one person is like, are you okay?
Right. I'm like the other direction where I'm like, Toni, like, we got to handle this. You got some big stuff going on. And that you just need to be seen and heard and felt and understood. And that's what I'm with you on. And what I'll tell you is when family members are making comments like that, and all chronic illness sufferers have at least one family member or friend who makes comments like that, our brain translates all stressors the same way, right? So if we feel like we're cavemen, right? Anything that's a threat to our survival, our livelihood, or our happiness is going to be translated as a stressor, right? Mm-hmm. So if we see a bear, our body translates that as a stressor because it's like we're going to die. Fight or flight mode, right? That's what all this is about, fight or flight mode. If you're sitting in traffic, we're going to die again. That's what our brain thinks, right? We don't have social acceptance. What happens if you're a caveman and you don't have social acceptance? You die, right? Because you don't have people to share the cave with. You don't have people to hunt with you. Mm-hmm. Our brains seek social approval as a way to survive. So when we are getting these signals that we are not worthy, that we are not okay, that we are not normal, our brain's receiving those as stressors. And what happens to our freaking system when we have stressors on it? It makes the whole thing worse, right?
Yeah.
Adding stressors to our stress system makes things worse. So I encourage people, when you're hearing those comments from family members, to categorize them as useless. That's what I suggest. Categorize them as useless. Yeah, thank you. And what I always say to someone who's commenting on my health, I deeply appreciate your concern. I actually don't need your help or assistance in this arena. If I do need your help, I will ask you for it. I actually don't need your questions or help. And I feel secure in my journey, but thank you so much for trying to help. Mm-hmm. Even though if it's judgment that you're receiving, thank them in gratitude. Mm-hmm. And that's the best way to deal with it. And then also deal with your own self and just saying, hey, I'm not feeling well. And that's real. Yeah. I really don't feel well. If you were to know that you were going to feel this way, you wouldn't have done this. Like, obviously you would never do this to yourself. Why would you do this? You didn't know.
Yeah.
You thought, oh, I've been trained my entire life to work, kill, do everything I need to. And you were doing exactly what you were told was the correct thing to do your entire life. Be motivated, work out a lot, kill. If you're upset about something, deal with it and move on with your life. That's what we've been told our entire lives. That doesn't work. And our bodies don't respect that. What our bodies respect is like, I feel you, Toni. I got you. I'm here for you. That's what your body responds to. And that's what will actually heal you. So I know how debilitating those comments can be. And I hear you, see you, and understand you for sure.
Thank you, Michelle.
Yeah.
You're so helpful. You have no idea. Like, oh my gosh. Yeah. So the emotional part, I think, is huge. And I think that's normal, but like not everybody recognizes it until they start to take care of their nutrition and, they start to commit to healthier living. They start to recognize how correlated their emotions are to that. So that is really important. So question.
Yeah.
Does gut, so is adrenal fatigue and leaky gut, are they usually together, or am I just happen to have the same?
No, they're definitely, yeah.
Okay. So
any stress on your gut is stress on your body, right? So your body's perceiving those stresses the same way. So if your gut is stressed, your body is stressed overall. Mm-hmm. And it's causing, also you create hormones in your stomach, right? And absorb too. So if you have leaky gut and you're leaking out essential hormones and or essential nutrients, those are both going to be stressors on your system and your body's not going to like it. Mm-hmm. Also, cortisol blocks the production of thyroid hormone. So there's a lot of different systems that are in place, also cortisol and insulin are antagonistic too, and have different effects on each other that make each other more resistant. So all of those things also impact your gut as well. Cortisol itself, when you're in an emergency situation, the first thing your body's going to do is say, don't poop in your pants because we got to run. So your body's going to slow digestion, right? So your body every single part of your body is impacted by fight or flight. It's your essential survival system. So your digestion is impacted, your brain is impacted, and basically what your body's going to do is start also, which is no surprise to you, and we didn't even discuss this, but your body starts to put glucose in the right positions so that your essential organs can access it. So you might experience weight gain in your midsection. That's a huge thing that I notice with people with adrenal fatigue is they have weight gain around their stomach. And the reason is your body wants you to have access to get fat and glucose from your liver.
It's helping
so
you.
That's why, it pumps you up just in case you need to run. It's saving and storing energy in case of a famine or emergency. It is all about your body preserving and making sure that you can survive. So the ways we do that are slowing digestion. So what happens after we slow digestion? Then you might have diarrhea later on. Also, it might be some people experience quicker digestion from it too. And also impacts on your heart rate, impacts on your temperature control. Your entire body survival system is impacted.
Yeah, that explains a lot. Like I've noticed my heart rate's so low. It's like crazy. It's always been really low, but I definitely noticed it was more low. I was getting night sweats, and I definitely, my temperature, like it would be like really, really warm, like randomly. Yeah. But I definitely also, it wasn't working anyway because I was so tired and fatigued, and like I couldn't stick to any sort of nutrition program or anything. So I was trying to lose weight, but like not really because I was so like not okay. Right. Yeah. But so then that's another thing. You're like, you gotta stop trying to lose weight. And I was like, okay, thank God.
Permission granted, please.
Yeah. But like we need to talk about why it's really not okay when you're in the healing process to be like trying to restrict your food intake. Or not restrict, because I wasn't restricting. I was in a caloric deficit. That's all. Like, but so, and I was at the point in my fitness journey, I'll just say like, because I have developed a healthy relationship with food and because I have like a big knowledge about nutrition, like I really was at the point of like, I do count my macros. Like for me, as it was probably more restrictive than I would give to somebody else, only because I like have the knowledge behind it. So I would just say that like, it wasn't like, there was a caloric deficit, and it was slightly regimented in the sense that it was like, if I wouldn't have a lot of healthy fats, let's say, because it didn't fit in my macros, which we know can be really helpful in a situation like this. But so, yeah, anyways.
This is where if it fits your macros is out the window. So there's a couple different reasons.
Yeah.
You are a caveman, Toni. Your caveman body, what's the number one fear that you're going to die from? Starvation. Yeah. Right? Number one thing. Maybe a bear, depending on where you are geographically. Starvation is your number one fear.
Yeah.
Your body in reaction to starvation is going to pump out stress hormone like insanely. So your body wants you to, is signaling to you, Toni, get some food. What cortisol will also do is help you to hold on to fat just in case you can't get food. So the easiest way to increase your cortisol is by starving your body. Yeah. So what I usually have people do, this is also one of the cases where you absolutely must stop intermittent fasting. It's one of the only cases where I would say, of course, if you have an eating disorder also, but my top reason for not allowing clients to do intermittent fasting is when they have advanced adrenal fatigue. When your blood sugar is low, again, your body produces cortisol. So what I tell a lot of my clients to do is before they go to sleep, if they're having sleep problems, eat some blueberries and sunflower seeds. It'll carry you through the night.
That's what I was doing. I didn't even know.
You're like, I was healing myself.
Literally, I've been, because I would usually not eat at night. Like I would say, if I'm going to go to bed, and I tell people,
listening
to bed
to yourself.
In like a couple hours, like there's really no reason to eat anything. But I was like, but I know I'm healing. So my new kick is like, I take frozen berries from the freezer and I put unsweetened almond milk and maybe a little drizzle of peanut butter or a little bit of
it's literally perfect.
Yeah. And then if I have any nuts, I might sprinkle or hemp seeds or something.
That is exactly what I would tell you to do. You were nailing it.
I was intuitively eating.
You were, and you knew what your body needed. So exactly that, because it'll stabilize your blood sugar through the night, and that will prevent the cortisol from spiking. So that and a little magnesium is like symptom management for sleep. Incredible. But keeping your blood sugar stable is one of the pillars of healing from adrenal fatigue. Every single time you're shooting cortisol, you're losing the game. So if you're intermittent fasting, your blood sugar is going to be low. The worst thing you can do is have your blood sugar drop down. That's really what you don't want, because then it's like cortisol, help. Cortisol also causes your body to do something called gluconeogenesis. Finally, we have a use for this term that we learned in college.
Like,
so it causes your body to it causes your body to create energy from protein, create glucose from protein sources. So create energy from non-glucose based sources, right? New glucose sources. So if you are releasing cortisol, you are probably releasing it additionally because you have dropped your blood sugar and your body's going, where the hell am I going to get, carbs from? I'm not eating anything. How can I get some glucose? I know how I'll do it. I will create it in my own body. So cortisol signals gluconeogenesis. So low blood sugar causes more cortisol to get that process going. So it's super important to keep your blood sugar nice and stable. Unfortunately, exercise also, besides just raising your cortisol, because you're already running and your body's going, are we in an emergency right now? Is that what's happening right now? But additionally, it does drop your blood sugar pretty substantially, which, exercise and intermittent fasting are two things that are stressors, but in a healthy body. I'm not saying your body's not healthy.
Right.
In a not stressed body.
It's not, I'm healing. It's not healthy right now.
It's not happy right now, but your brain is. But if in exercise and intermittent fasting are two things that are stressors on your body. They're positive stressors, but at a point where your body's not tolerating any stressors, they're just stressors. So that's really what we're trying to avoid. And that's where I'm at with you right now too. How are you physically feeling? We're talking a lot and like it's late. Are you okay?
Yeah, no, I'm fine. I'm fine. Okay. No, we're good. All right. But I wanted to talk about, just because I want to be mindful of your time. So we have like 10 minutes or so left, but I feel like I need to say this. So, because we hear this all the time, and, as dietitians, we believe in individualized care. And so here they are hearing, like, is intermittent fasting good or bad? Like, is gluten good or bad? Is
good. I hope they're confused and then ask an actual individualized professional. Confuse you all. Good.
Yeah. So, but I guess what I'm trying to say is all right, for anybody listening, there's a time and place for everything. And some things are effective dependent on your history, dependent on the state that you're at, and depending on what your goals are. And so everything that you're hearing right now, it might feel a little bit overwhelming, but if you are someone who's struggling with bloating or fatigue or not waking up in the middle of the night or something like that, reach out to Michelle, reach out to myself, find out what's going on with you so we can give you a more specific guidelines of how to kind of go about it. Because right now I feel like people are so is intermittent fasting good or bad? But that's not the point. The point is that when you're sick or when you're healthy, whatever your goal is, you have to just treat the goal. And so whether it's good or bad, it doesn't matter. The point is it's going to help you get to your goal.
Exactly. And treat the person.
Yeah.
So there could be Toni Ann 6 months ago might have been a great candidate for intermittent fasting. Toni Ann now, I would forbid it. So it really depends on the person and what their body is able to do. The reason why no protocol in the entire world works for everyone is because our bodies have so much going on at the same time. And unless you're working with a practitioner who works with root cause medicine, root cause health, root cause nutrition, you're never going to really be able to get the results from something that you need. So that is why these baseline recommendations, I think blood sugar stability is super important. I think that's a reasonable thing to say for everyone. I will also say that every person who's suffering from adrenal fatigue, I do not think is a candidate for intermittent fasting. I do think that. For you to find out what you're dealing with, you have to go to a licensed healthcare professional though. And that's the important part is me saying these things. So if I'm saying intermittent fasting is no good, what if someone naturally doesn't eat breakfast every morning? Do you have to start eating breakfast? Those questions can't be answered by me talking to you about it.
Exactly.
There's no application of this information besides to maybe something can strike you in ways of a factual sense, blood sugar stability, again, larger principles, but you have, for these complicated issues that are super individualized, like again with Toni, like she loves her coffee. For me right now, treating her, I'm like, I don't want to take away her coffee because it brings her joy, and her energy is so low right now. It's not going to be an asset to her. By the books, you should not drink coffee when you have HPA axis dysregulation, but it's an asset to Toni right now. And I think it's helping her more than hurting her. So we're trying to negotiate those things too. And that's what you have to do.
Yeah. And which is, well, I do want to say something about that. It's like, so once again, a lot of times, and I know that my clients experience this too, it's the permission that like coffee is okay, even though I know really it's not okay. And you did the same thing with me with wine and like alcohol. And cause I love wine. I love coffee. And like, because you told me that, I'm still drinking coffee because I do need it like to get through my day.
You need it right now.
Yeah. But like, I'm not drinking as much as I was because also I just wasn't responding anyway. So honestly, there was no point in me drinking. I kept like trying, but like nothing was happening. So like, it didn't even matter. So now, but like, I know it's not really good for me really. So I have cut back, which is helping. And I think once again, because you kind of were just like, you can have it, but you know, so it made me realize that. And then same thing with the alcohol. Like I noticed like, it was nice to help me like not feel stressed a little bit, but it was making me more tired. So I have noticed that too. And because I think a lot of what I'm experiencing, and we've spoke about this, like I think I'm chronically dehydrated because like, and that's why you've been having me salt my foods. And like, no matter how much water I drink, I'm always thirsty. I've been getting like these muscle cramps. My skin's not great.
You also had diarrhea for a while. So you lost a lot of electrolytes too.
Yeah. But that was kind of a while ago though. But like either way, I mean, maybe, I don't know. But like either way, I just like, I really like just by you telling me that, I think has been helpful in the sense it's like, okay, I know I'm allowed to have it, but I'm not going to have too much of it.
Right. It's taking it away and that restriction would have felt,
like all or nothing.
You know what? You already have to do so much right now to heal, and you're already taking away so many joys. We're going to keep adding back in joys, which is an important part of healing in this too. But you're already taking away stuff that you got to pick your battles. Because if you're also doing something that is intentionally unpleasant to you, you're attacking your HPA axis again. So it's a balance of finding like that negotiation and where that is. So like a little coffee, it might be your sweet spot right now. And you might need that. When you feel like you need something, you probably need it. And your body was calling you to stop exercising as much and you knew it. And you were just ignoring that. But coffee was something that you were like, I don't know, I really need to be awake right now. So like, you know what I mean? Like I still have to go about my day. So you have to adapt a plan that actually works for you. And that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
And you're getting some good results, which is super important. And the most important thing is that you hold on dear and tight to the belief that you can every single day get a little better. Even when you're going to have some big fail days and you're just going to nap through it and you're going to be sleepy and it's going to be okay. But that you hold on fiercely to the belief that you can be well. And I know, I'm certain you can. I know you can.
No, I agree. Cause I'm learning like, right. So one day I felt really good and I overdid it. And then the next day or the day after and a little bit of the day after, it took me like 3 days.
For sure.
Like,
Yeah,
come
exactly.
back from that, you know, but like, so I'm like, okay, just because I'm feeling good doesn't mean I have to like push myself.
It means you can still.
Yeah. Like yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's a lot. It takes a lot of listening to your body, which I think everybody can take a lesson out of that. Like how many of us are ignoring like the way food makes us feel and how, you know, if your body wants to nap, like if you can nap. Sometimes we can't because of like our work and like, but if you could rearrange your schedule, like everyone's always, I feel like pleasing others. And I find that that's like the biggest thing that's going to just like, you know, keep you in this state you're never going to heal.
And especially for someone like you, who is a total people pleaser and a total like mushy sweetheart, like this has been, I think from when I've known you from 10 years ago, something that we talked about in one of our first conversations too.
Oh yeah. And that's another thing that like, once again, I'm really proud of myself. I have learned to set those boundaries. Like I'm getting better, but I do believe like it has been years of me putting others before myself. And now that I'm finally listening to myself and taking care of myself first, my body really is paying for I mean years. My whole life, I grew up in trauma, trying to heal my sister, trying to heal my best friend, being in relationships that didn't serve me, dating, giving, and never getting anything back in return. And like, then dedicating my life to my profession, which I love so much. But to get to this point where I'm at today took a lot of hustle. So if you look back on it, it makes sense. So like whatever's happening probably was happening for a while. And
it
now
definitely was.
Like, yeah. And so now it's just like, okay, we have to address it. And
this
so,
is your time.
This is
and
it.
This is your like special time. And this is like when you've first been able to deal with these things. I will say in Ayurvedic medicine, they believe that, I'm scared to tell you this, it takes as long to heal from something as it took to create it. So it would you're like, no, but that doesn't mean the symptoms won't be there, but it means that probably like the emotional, spiritual end of it takes as long. But it's a wild thought where, my clients come to me and they're like, I want to get better tomorrow. I'm like, how about 27 years? Well, for symptoms, it can be gone in like months. It's not, nothing like that, but that's, to put in perspective that is the belief in Ayurvedic medicine, that it takes as long to heal from something as it does to create damage from it. And I will say one last thing for you, and that a message that I'm going to continue to impart on you. Selfish people are the healthiest people. Selfless people are the sickest. You have to be selfish. You have to set boundaries. And when you are well, you will be able to help people way better. So that's the truth. Be selfish. It's counterintuitive to your nature, but your nature has not gotten you the right way. So go against your nature and be selfish and stand up for yourself. That's the way to heal. That's the number one way to heal.
Totally. Oh my gosh. Michelle, you're amazing. Thank you so much. So just because I want to be mindful of everyone's time, I'm definitely going to have you back because this is going to be a continuation. I'm going to see you tomorrow, which I'm super excited.
I'm going to see you tomorrow too. I'm so excited with a talk that my naturopath's giving, which is so fun.
I'm excited to meet him. And I'm going to get some tests. You said it's like they test for everything. Like, do they test for autoimmune stuff too?
Yeah. So my naturopath is a really and I'll keep saying his name, Dr. Kochko, plug. He's a really comprehensive practitioner. So his initial consultation is actually 90 minutes. So you sit down with him and basically go through everything. He might come to a completely different conclusion for you. I highly doubt it, but I think that what he can do is order a variety of different tests. It'll be based on his feeling of what's going on with you, and not feeling, scientific evidence. So he will draw conclusions from what you're saying, from previous blood work, from your symptoms, and basically his goal will be to get to the root cause, like I've said, of what's going on. He's probably the most learned scientific person I've ever known, where he knows like every enzyme and substrate reaction in the body. I'm like, what is I don't even know what he's talking about half the time, and I'm good. Like, I don't know what he's talking about. He's and sometimes I'll be saying something and I'll be leaning, we're both practitioners, right? You and I and him. So I'll be leaning in a direction where I'm like, I think I'm vitamin D deficient. And he'll just take me through a loop. And I'm just like, oh, I've been so zeroed in on what I thought was going on. And he's so on the next level with every question.
So this might be good to get a second opinion, because I know one of the symptoms that I'm having, which is not correlated, but could be, like you said, it could be that I'm just stressed. But even right now, like as we're talking, like I have like this like, it's not like a soreness. It's not like I worked out and I have muscle pain. It's like muscle pain that like radiates down my front of my shins and like the back of my neck.
You got it. I want you to get tested. Why not get extensive testing?
That's not part of adrenal fatigue, right? That's separate. That's a different symptom.
If you have inflammation, can it be causing that? But if you're having burning pain radiating through your body,
it's not comfortable.
It could be explained by tension, clearly. It could be, right? Although I will say the best answer is always to get tested. We are treating your symptoms now for you to feel better. If it's up here, of course it can be stress. That being said, why would you not get a comprehensive exam? Of course.
No, I definitely am.
And I'll support you either way.
No, thank you. You've been amazing. I'm definitely going to get the test. We'll definitely do a part 2. But for now, tell everybody where they can find you if they want to reach out to you.
So I'm on Instagram, Michelle Shapiro RD, and my website is michelleshapirord.com. You can email me at michelleshapirord@gmail.com. So it's easy.
I like TipsWithToni everything.
It's just the same exact thing everywhere. It's my name with the letter R in the D.
Yeah, I'll put it in the show notes. And so just last question. So you're in New York. Do you do online nutrition counseling or only in person?
I do both. I'm split And now I'd say 50-50. A lot more people have wanted to do virtual counseling. My availability is tighter now because obviously my client base is continuing to grow, and I have a lot of consistent clients who've been with me for years. So my in-person availability is shrinking and my online availability is maintaining. So I'd say that it's easier to get, which I feel is exactly the same, obviously, service. But people are nudgy in New York City. I don't know. People are finicky and they want in person sometimes. So I will be actually moving to just taking clients 2 days a week. Right now I'm taking clients 7 days a week in person. And I just had this conversation with a business coach. So it's easier to schedule with me. And I, in person, it might be a couple weeks waiting list. And if it's online, it might be only a week or so, maybe 2.
Gotcha. Yeah. Michelle won't let me pay her, but I'm going to find a way to do it because I'm pretty positive I'm going to hire her like for real. Like right now she's just like helping me on the side, but like I need sessions.
No, you're going to come in person. We're going to like do the damn thing.
No.
Yeah, we're going to do it.
Anyways, Michelle.
But you're not paying me anything, but thank you so much for the offer. I do appreciate it.
You're welcome. Any last minute things you want to say?
No, I'm just very proud of you for sharing your story. And I feel that, and anyone who hears it will feel so empowered by hearing someone else is going through it. And if anyone just feels that moment in their head where you're like, something might be off, it is, and listen to yourself and get the help you need.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much, Michelle.
Yeah. I see you, I hear you, and I'm proud of you, and I'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Are you like mind blown? I am. Michelle is so smart. She knows so much. And she really, really specializes in this area. So if you are someone who's been experiencing extreme fatigue, bloating, you feel like something is wrong, please reach out to her for help. She knows her stuff. She will put you in the right direction. She's helped me tremendously, and I am so grateful because if I didn't choose to get the help from her, and even meet with that naturopathic doctor, I would still be really lost and confused and probably struggling for a whole lot longer. So I'm really, really thankful for her and everything she's done for me. So to say thank you to Michelle from me, I want you guys to do 2 things. I want you to, 1, screenshot this episode, put it in your story, tag Michelle, tag us, tag me, let me know that this resonated with you and it was helpful to you. And then second thing you can do as a thank you is if you really need the help, please reach out to her. She knows her stuff. All right. Thank you so much for listening. If you have any questions or suggestions for future episodes, do not hesitate to reach out. Once again, this is Toni Marinucci, your registered dietitian, helping you get healthy one bite at a time.